Another thing I see a lot, particularly with auction campaigns, is that they go in too early. They don't realise that there's a sort of a sweet spot in an auction campaign, and there's like it might work, and even that might work 8 times out of 10, but it's not going to work the other 20% of times.
Actually, you go into that a lot in your book, and I think that's a really important point because there aren't a lot of auctions done in, say, Perth or Brisbane, but a lot in Sydney and Melbourne, and certainly not a lot regionally. And if you are lining up for a property and you get that timing wrong, you can either miss out because you've gone too late or be one of the educators of setting the reserve. And that's an important part of the process too. And we go into that in the course, of course, but that is such an important part to read in your book is when to make an early offer. And there can be circumstances when it works.
Yeah, and plenty when it doesn't. There's a lot of buyers that will do it out of fear. They think, I want to avoid the auction. It's like, well, actually, there are certain times that an auction is better for a buyer than other times. So it's knowing, and each circumstance is different. We have these podcast episodes. We chat and chew the fat and share some of these funny stories. But it has to be a process you go through to narrow it down and decide, what is the right way forward this time. And if you nail it once, and here's another thing that I come across with buyers, I'm sure you do too, if they've bought 1 or 2 properties previously in their lives, they go, well, it worked for me that time, I'm going to do the same thing. It's like, well, it doesn't actually work every time.
Different time, different circumstance, different sellers, different agent, different buyers in the marketplace, even going from one auction to another. You could have been quite close on one auction and think, yep, all right, well, I'm going to just tweak that strategy that I used. You and I have a toolkit of strategies and different dialogue and different ways that we approach things depending on what type of property it is, what's the demographic of the buyer, what's the agent like and what's their process, what can we find out about the owner. Probably the smaller part of the picture often in auctions.
Even the auctioneer.
The auctioneer is important. Yeah. The way that they negotiate off the floor if the reserve hasn't been reached, and what sort of strategy should you use during that negotiation?
How realistic is the vendor's expectation? Because there's times when negotiating under the hammer is beneficial to the buyer, at times when passing it in is beneficial to the buyer. All of these different scenarios, and most people go to an auction and they've got no idea.